The views and opinions expressed by the participants of this broadcast are their own, and not necessarily shared by the sponsors, organizations, or individuals mentioned in this broadcast. It will contain topics and language unsuitable for younger listeners. Parental discretion is advised. You're listening to 3231 Nomad Radio. Nomad Radio. Afternoon. There we are. Hi. How are you?
Hello.
Are we on? Let me make sure the cameras are rolling, the microphone's going.
Looks like
we
it.
look like we're all set. No problems yet. Hi, everybody. It is 1:06 p.m. here. It is, I just said it a second ago. It is Tuesday, June 7th, 2022. It's the day before we normally do our YouTube show, Nomad Radio, but thank you very much for watching this, and no matter where or when you are watching this. This is 3231. This is Nomad Radio. I'm Matt. That's Ben. And in between us is our very special guest, Tuck, who is joining us right now.
Thank you for
in
having
our
me.
studio. You're very welcome, sir.
And he really is here. This is not digital trickery.
Right. This is legit.
Yeah.
And which I would that's fine. It's a little questionable. All of our you never know what's going to work and what's not going to work, but this is real. This is actually happening. So and I'm being cautious of the things that I'm clicking and not clicking, what is on, what is not on. We're doing good. We're doing all right here. So tomorrow Ben's got a thing.
Mm-hmm. I do. Earth Talk is tomorrow. That's our monthly meetup where we talk about...
What's it called again?
Earth Talk.
Earth Talk?
Yeah, it's Earth Talk, and it's at Southside Garage in South Knoxville. And it's where we've kind of adopted as our monthly meetup, where anyone who's interested in sustainability or regenerative living, homesteading stuff, anything like that, but more on like an eco-friendly slant. So we've been doing it now for 15 months, I think. Yeah, in a row. I've only missed like one or two, but
here we go with the cameras again.
Yeah, it's fine as long as it's me glitching and not Tuck. Right. We're fine. Yeah, but it's a good event, and I'll be doing that tomorrow, so I won't be able to do a live show.
Well, no,
so this is a show though. This is a live show. Tuck is alive.
Yeah, we're doing it now. We are real people. This is not CGI. We're actually doing a show right now. I will still be on tomorrow live to do a solo show, but. And at some point, we even had talks of getting another guest co-host to join us. Abby, Ben's daughter, has shown an interest in jumping on and taking over.
Too bad she's at camp, though.
She's at camp.
She's at camp. She can't be here. She's already booked. She was already booked, so we couldn't get...
It all sort of happens at the last minute. But
have her people get with your people.
Exactly. That's what happens when you're 11 and you're Don Amici's great-granddaughter.
But it's cool to say that Abby wants to be a co-host, that she's interested in doing it. Like we had her on the previous show that we did. It might have been the last YouTube show. Ben
took the phone and ran.
Ben wanted to get something to eat, and so Abby was right here. We're like, Abby co-host real quick.
Yeah.
And Ben ran up and grabbed something to eat and came back down. It was kind of cool. It was kind of funny.
She could just drop. We just hit a button. All of our daughters just instantly replace us for however long we need the break.
We should do that just for the heck of it. Just have Abby and Izzy host the show.
Yeah,
us not even be, or like I could be on the side or something like that. Just
no, Tuck's got two girls. They can do the show. We can just have them do it.
But welcome. Thank you for joining us on the show.
Absolutely.
We did a show way back in the before days.
Years ago. 7 years ago. 8 years ago, maybe.
Dude,
how many years ago was it?
2008, 2009.
Okay. I don't want to do the math.
No,
that
it was
makes me
halfway
feel
homeless,
old.
so it was 2010, 2011.
2000, yeah, I was going to say it was like 2010. I was still in the band, but still wanted to do some podcasting and stuff, and figuring out the next chapter sort of a thing. But we were in Ocala. We were in Ben's garage. We had like a podcast thing kind of set up, kind of didn't really know what we wanted to do as far as YouTube was concerned. Didn't have any cameras, or certainly the computer that we didn't have the setup that we have.
It wasn't
right now.
common then. It wasn't common to have video.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Only the big boys like Rogan and like Adam Carolla and those guys had video with their podcast.
Yeah.
But when we were doing it, everything was still audio.
Kevin Smith and
Rush Limbaugh.
well,
Yeah, sure. Rush Limbaugh. Howard
but
Stern had his
I'm
thing.
trying to think nerd culture wise. Nerdist, Chris Hardwick. There are a couple big names that were doing it, but
I've never liked him because he was just extremely successful, and I know it's probably because he worked really hard, and I'm always jealous of him for that.
Piss on that.
Yeah,
Which?
that he worked really hard. Chris Hedrick.
Oh, Chris Hardwick. Yeah.
Yeah, he had like he was on like 9 shows at the same time. Like, dude, how are you doing 9 projects at once? Like, I can't. I'm jealous of that because my pie is cut so many different ways, and like I'm not as successful in anything that I'm doing of one of his many 9 shows that he did at the time. I mean, he's kind of like faded away, right? He's not popular anymore, right?
Yeah.
I'm really
Well, I
upset
mean,
he was.
he's still doing it, but
not at the popularity as he was.
No, there was a lot of personal things, a lot of things in his life that he had been, like with the Me Too movement, there are a lot of things that he had been accused of by...
he got canceled?
By,
jeez.
cancel culture sort of a thing. He had a lot of issues that he had to deal with, and so...
boy.
But it was also...
As he takes the hundreds of dollars bills and just wipes his tears that he was canceled and he can't work anymore.
Dana's joining us. Hi, Dana. How are you? Sleep paralysis demon.
Nice.
That's got to be Dana. Hi, Day Day. Is that my Day Day? I'm assuming that's the only Dana I know, other than Dana Smart, a friend of mine. A guy I used to go to school with.
Matt has this wonderful ability with all these friends that he's made in the last like 10 years that he remembers so many of them
By their handle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the handle, name, where they're from, and I know like a couple dozen. You know what I mean? But those were like people that had been watching and communicating and talking to us.
Yeah, probably like I've had my face in front of thousands of people on the internet, but the fact that I can actually name like 100. I counted. I tried to do it one time and I reached 100 with the names of people that I remember and the people that are on the internet. So which for me is that's amazing because I have a terrible memory.
I don't think you could count to 100. Let alone count how many people you knew.
Okay, so I can't confirm because I can't count to 100. I don't know that it was 100, but it was a lot of people.
He had help.
Also, Dana in particular is special as well. One of the people that I've actually met in person, based the people that have when we were doing Periscope, and that's when things really started to take off. Like I say, and getting in front of a lot of people, live streaming. I made a lot of good friends with the community in the past few years, and Dana,
why haven't we scheduled our cookout, our 3-2-3-1
rock out with your cookout?
Yeah, why haven't we scheduled that? Are we just waiting for it to cool down a little bit? Like we'll plan it for fall.
I think we were waiting for the panini to die down a little bit. The pandemic, the panda bear. We're waiting for that to die down a little bit.
It's back again, dude. You didn't hear about monkeypox? All the
right.
confirmed cases, or was it you that told me that your phone just?
My phone was like break. So I just wanted to look at the weather, and they had breaking news. 3,000 people. It's a bunch of shit.
I know how I'm gonna play this game. I know how Tuck played it last time. Monkeypox, no.
Yeah,
it's not. No, I'm no longer. I don't want to play.
You're canceling monkeypox.
Yeah, no, you're done. You're done. You can't tell me that stuff anymore.
Yeah, but I don't know why we should plan on some sort of social thing. Sure.
Yeah.
I mean that
a cookout, and I know there's not going to be that many people that are going to want to camp, but like if there's 3 or 4 people that want to camp, they can camp here. You know what I mean? It's not a big
Tennessee camping in gorgeous Tennessee near the Smoky Mountains. Are you serious?
Well, wait till it starts to chill. Like what? October.
That would be amazing.
October. Yeah. It doesn't get that cold in October. Well, it will freeze.
Well, you could.
It can.
You could
not
camp.
Usually about 50, 60 degrees at night.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
70 during the day, 80.
Yeah.
I mean, you could in the summer, but yeah,
it's so hot. It's so hot. Now,
but it's not
I won't
Florida
camp
hot.
It's not Florida hot. Yeah, you got that right.
You're only like 2 states away, says Dana.
That's my point. We're
Dana,
only like 2 states away from most of our fans.
In our live chat, Dana says this is how Planet of the Apes begins, with the series of monkeypox. And
did you ever watch any of the original?
All of them.
You watched it all?
The TV series?
Not the TV series.
No, the TV series was pretty good. If you want to watch, if you want to get to
like an HBO Planet of the Apes show.
if you want to get the vibe of Planet of the Apes these days, watch Mandalorian because that has a lot of like the.
I'm
the
very
old,
excited about.
the
Yeah,
old
they've already been
serials.
greenlit for a 4th season, as if anybody was in doubt.
Yeah, the
Mandalorian.
cash machine is going to
Yeah.
continue. Are you
Well, did
serious?
you hear the big thing with him is that he's able to work on other projects because they just have a body double as the Mandalorian, and he voices his lines. Like he's in there sometimes.
Have a great day,
you
Dana.
know,
Enjoy your day at
but-
work. Dana popping in for just a second.
What a-
She said
what a-
she's
I mean, how
working,
many-
but she's got to go.
What a contract! You know, he's making, and he's famous. You know, and he's doing work, and I like him.
It's a
I
good
like
gig.
that genre of Star Wars. Like we didn't have it for so. Like I don't know about you. I was a Star Trek fan growing up, but
Whoa, whoa,
I would have
whoa, whoa,
watched.
whoa, Star Trek.
Huh? What's that?
What are we talking about?
No, I'm saying when I grew up, I was a Star Trek fan
Okay,
because
okay.
of TV. There's so much Star Trek on TV.
Hold on. He said.
That as an adult now, we get to enjoy Star Wars on television.
Yeah.
You know, because when we were little, we just had the movies, and to me, you know, it was New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. And then after those movies, they let really good science fiction authors write Star Wars stories, so we could all be like, oh, well, what happened to Luke after Return of the Jedi? Well, all this crazy shit happened, whether it was, you know, and they covered it in graphic
Made a
novels.
lot. Yeah, it
and-
made a lot of sense when you're talking about like the possibility. With Star Wars and 3 movies, everyone's like, "What is this world that people are living in, and these species and stuff?"
Well, they always had novels and stuff. Like the Splinter of a Mind's Eye happened, you know, after New Hope and Empire Strikes Back and stuff like that. It was
but
a weird
it just
story,
made
but-
sense to expand the universe,
Yeah.
and now to be able to have all that
New content produced.
that fleshed out lore
Yeah.
and the fleshed out, you know, it just made sense to.
You know,
what's-
it'd be really
it's like we
cool.
said the same thing about Marvel and everything else. It just makes sense to be
There has
able to
been a
do the
ton
Marvel.
of short stories released for like bounty hunters and Jedi and stuff like that in the Star Wars universe. It'd be really cool if the series were like one shots of different Star Wars stories,
like
and
an
then
anthology.
like an anthology, exactly. Yeah, all those different stories and stuff like that. Because even like Stephen King wrote tons of like short stories and stuff like that, and those have always interested me because he was always so descriptive in his stuff. Where like, you know, he could take like, you know, 7 sentences to describe a tree. You know what I mean? By the end of that, you're really going to know what that tree was like. You know, Stephen King has a good way of describing things. But like just fiction in general, you know, and these stories, there's so much in the Star Wars universe that can be told. There's so much in the Trek universe that can be told. But there's just so, like, we were talking about The Expanse last night, and what an amazing show that was, because it was like a realistic sci-fi setting versus like Star Wars. Like there's magic and the Force and like
Well,
lightsabers and
They dropped the magic aspect of the Force. In the,
well,
in
the
prequels, but
midichlorian
You
in
made
your
it more
DNA
science,
or
yeah.
whatever.
But
Yeah.
you know, in talking about this stuff, I agree that an expanded universe is valuable
Mhm.
in these cultural icons, but I wish that they were more isolated and disconnected from the veneer of what's going to make money and got. In other words, I remember in the 80s when Caravan of Courage and Battle for Endor
Mhm.
came out.
Was
Right?
was the Ewok movies?
They were the Ewok movies.
Yeah.
And as a child, I really liked them. And I'm reminded of what that felt like to get more Star Wars content without having to bring up Han Solo and Leia
Yeah.
Yeah.
and all this stuff. Like they're
The
and now-
Skywalker saga. Yeah, there's
Yeah,
something
now-
else other than
yes,
Skywalker.
there's that.
Yeah.
It's the expanded universe, not the expanded. How much money can we make off these characters
Yeah.
and retailoring them
Yep.
over and over and over again?
Yeah, the same rehashing.
But
yeah.
that's actually why that series failed, is because it didn't sell the toys that they wanted it to. So that's why it only lasted so long.
I had
right?
Wicket.
Yeah, you had Wicked. I loved it. I cried and everything when I saw it for the first time, because I mean I saw it at the same time when it first came out when I was a little kid. But I don't know. To me, I started nerding out with Star Wars when I was a later teen, like with the special edition VHS copies. Was it the Faces edition or whatever? And then I would just put it on, and as soon as Empire Strikes Back was over, I would pop Return of the Jedi in, and then I'd watch Goodfellas like a dozen times in a row to like cleanse me of anything Star Wars.
A little ginger on the tongue.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, but like the spiritual aspect, we talked about that on one of our previous podcasts, the spiritual side of like Jedi and like the positive and the negative. I know you've gone through kind of some unique scenarios with your own spirituality, or martial arts, or just how would you even describe that to somebody? Like, how does that look like for Tuck?
Well, I think to bridge the gap between the two conversations, to connect those two dots, the stories that resonate with massive numbers of people, the stories that resonate with most people for a reason. All right. And this is where things kind of flow into a conversation about mysticism. The reason that the idea of the Force resonates with people, and you only need a couple of lines of dialogue within a film, and everybody understands what the Force is, right? Even though they don't go into detail and spend an entire character to explain to you what the Force is. They spend like 2 or 3 sentences of dialogue explaining what the Force is, and most people on the planet have heard of it and know what it is.
Yeah.
Right? Why does that happen? Well, because fundamentally it's a universal truth. People always know a universal truth when they're confronted with it, right? A universal truth is something that once you've been exposed to it, you don't have any questions about it. When somebody tells you something that is a universal truth, or should I back up a minute and say, when somebody tells you something that is the truth from their perspective, typically the first thing that enters your mind when you've been exposed to somebody else's truth from their perspective is, okay, so what about this thing? You always have a question. You always have a question. Whenever we're exposed to a universal truth, the way that we can identify it is the fact that we have no questions about it. We are exposed to it, and we instantly accept it and understand where it's coming from and what it means.
Being a being in this reality, you're connected to the truth in some way, and you recognize that connection, and so you acknowledge that connection, and most people can differentiate between the part of the truth that they're connected with and what somebody else may have embellished.
Right,
You can tell the truth from somebody's perception of the truth.
Right.
Yeah.
So when a great storyteller like George Lucas confronts his audience with a concept such as the Force, and an all-encompassing, all-penetrating energy in the universe that everything is tapped into and everything exists because of and in relationship to, right? When we are exposed to that, when we see A New Hope for the first time, or when we hear about Yoda talking about it for the first time, that resonates with us as maybe it's not the Force, and maybe we can't so easily be trained to lift a rock or a spaceship with this power, but fundamentally we understand that there definitely is an energy that is creating the fabric of reality, and we are all tapped into it on one level or another, and if we choose, we can become more in tune with it and more harmonic with it if we choose to train ourselves and our minds to do so.
And most intelligent human beings that have had some experience with the world have heard of that. Maybe not by that name, but by another name. Like the people, the different religions, different spiritualities all seem to have that common denominator of connecting with something greater.
Well, they're all based on a universal truth.
Yeah.
All great stories, and that includes all religious stories from all religions. They're all coming from the same place, and that's why they resonate with huge numbers of people. That's why people become religious, is because when they hear these stories, whether they go at them in a literal sense or whether they go at them in a philosophical sense, no matter which way you look at it from, you automatically know when you're exposed to that story, that the Star Wars story or a Bible story or a Quran story or a Hindu story, whatever it is, when you're exposed to these stories, they are all feeding from universal truth.
Yeah.
And that's what makes them important.
And the human need to understand, the human need to seek out and connect with other parts of the universe, the other aspects of the universe. And so martial arts is certainly one of those disciplines, I guess you can call it, one of those practices that can help you to a certain degree. Well, connect physically to
Big time.
to yourself, and they have and like I said, discipline is probably a good word for it. The idea of connecting physically, not necessarily. I don't want to sound super aggressive and say controlling your body or that sort of thing, but understanding the human body, the capabilities of the human body,
Understanding the relationship
limitations.
between your spirit and your body.
Exactly. Yeah. The
Right?
physical, the mental. Yeah. All that. Yeah. Spiritual. Yeah.
So violence is a force in nature, and so is peace.
Yep.
And so is the human spirit. And those three things find themselves intersecting when a human pursues martial arts. You are finding you're finding the crossroads of violence and peace and your own human spirit. When you, and not everybody's going to see it that way, but that's the beautiful thing about it is you don't have to see it that way in order for it to be true, right? Just because you missed it doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Yeah. And the nature of the world being as chaotic as it is, to have some sort of
Everyone should learn one martial art at the
yeah,
very least.
or if not martial arts, at least the understanding behind it, where you may not want to kick and punch and do that sort of thing, but having some sort of like in a chaotic world, especially now more than ever, the people are the world is so big and it's so easy to get caught up in it and get swept away by it in the undertow of whatever this is that we're experiencing and the overloading of information and all that stuff. To do something like martial arts is an admirable pursuit, I think. I mean, I myself, I'm not an active person myself. I mean, look at me, but the idea of
your
somebody
mouth's active, your body's not.
yeah,
Your
well,
mouth-
my activity is more interior than exterior, but it's admirable for someone to want to pursue in a chaotic world control, I guess if you want to call it that, of an aspect of themselves. It's attractive to be able to say, I can control my breathing, or I can control my cardio. I can get myself in better shape. I can get my attitude straight. I can strengthen my mind. I can strengthen my body. I can become better and more clear. And clarity comes a lot with martial arts to a degree. Maybe not everybody experiences that, but
they do, and I'll tell you why. And again, it's one of those deals where just because you don't know you've experienced it doesn't mean it hasn't happened.
True.
Because maybe your focus, if you're in martial arts because you want to be competitive, then your focus becomes, I want to be great at this physical skill, so I'm applying myself to it. And so you miss some of the other peripheral things that might be happening to you as you develop that skill because you're focused on being a great competitor, right? But that doesn't mean that those things didn't happen to you. And the way that these things change, that is imperceptible unless you're looking for it, is a lot of noise. What I mean by noise is a lot of the things you worry about in the course of a day. A lot of those things has to do with worrying if you're able or if you're capable to rise to certain challenges or meet certain things, or what if this happens, or what if this guy talks to me that way, or what if I ask for a raise and my boss resists. These things that create a lot of noise in our heads that dissuade us from being able to focus on things that are truly important. We're instead focused on these things that come from a place of negative worry, and that negative worry comes from a place of self-doubt.
Yeah.
And that is something that is greatly diffused, that self-doubt, when you apply yourself to something like martial arts, a hardening of your body through trials, right, and through stress. When, for me,
and the mental exercises that go along with that, like meditation and stuff, is involved in martial arts.
Exactly.
Well.
There's a lot of martial arts that lend themselves to spirituality, but I think it's a chicken and egg thing where I think that warriors of the ancient past found themselves after a battle or after exhaustive training able to break through mental barriers that they could not before, because their mind is cleared through their exertion. Their mind has been cleared. And so I think that in that particular story that I just laid out, that comes from my imagination. Maybe it happened, maybe it didn't.
Mm-hmm.
But in the chicken or the egg scenario, the one that I just laid out, the exhausted man who has gone through a violent trial now finds himself sitting there able to focus on something that he never could before, right? Because of what the situation he's put his body and mind in through his trial, right? So when to connect that back to what I was talking about a minute ago, is when we apply ourselves in this way. For me personally, it looks like 4 or 5 dudes a night, every night. I fight guys. I spar, and the sparring in Gracie Jiu-Jitsu is live, so it's not like tag you're it sparring.
Yeah.
It's a desperate fight where we have both agreed that we're not going to injure each other.
Yeah.
But you're going to have to quit if you want me to stop choking you. You know, so I fight.
You're not out to injure somebody, but you're not
He's fighting.
necessarily pulling punches either.
It's a fight, right? It's a fight.
Well, they don't strike. They don't kick, and you don't knee, and you don't elbow each other.
Yeah. It's grappling for position and then choking, armbar. It's a submission game, right? The only way it stops is when somebody quits. And different people have different threshold for when they will quit. Mine started out really high because I wanted to prove how tough I was, and has gradually gotten to a more lower threshold of what I will tolerate because I'm smarter now and I know better than to let somebody just crank on my neck. But look.
And a better understanding of your body and your mind and everything, where you can say, I see where this is going.
Yeah. Awareness.
Yeah, awareness.
So, again, trying to connect these thoughts together. For me personally, I'm fighting 4 or 5 dudes a night. Most of them have at least 50 pounds on me and are half my age, right? They're 22 to 25 years old, some 30, and a lot of them are, between 180 and 250 pounds, right? They're big guys, athletic guys. They're in there. They're mean. We're all going at each other in a very aggressive and competitive way.
Mm-hmm.
After I do that every night, that's a dump, right? That's an adrenaline dump. That's an energy dump. And once I have done it, my capacity for thinking about things without having any distracting thoughts coming in my head is massive compared to earlier in the day when I'm busy with other things.
Sure.
Also, because I do that every day, my mind is conditioned to a way higher stress level threshold. Like my mind's perception of what is stressful is I've got to fight 5 dudes in the next 30 minutes.
I'm being choked out right now.
Yeah.
That's my stress level.
Yeah.
I might hit a red light on my way to work.
I was going to say, where am I going to park?
Literally being choked.
So as a result, the noise level is taken way, way down for me. And I can say this compared to 4 years ago when I had never done martial arts before, right? Negative worry was a big part of the end of a lot of my journeys. Right.
Well, you could also say that one of the reasons why you are successful is you're not afraid to try.
I am afraid.
You are afraid to try.
I am afraid. I'm always afraid to try. Yeah. But my threshold for what will stop me is much higher.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it's not fear. Bravery is not about not being afraid. Bravery is about fighting beyond the fear, and when you're really passionate in pursuit of the truth that you're trying to seek or understanding you're trying to seek. So, like that it's not about not having weakness. It's about pushing past your weakness because the pursuit of truth is more important.
I really believe that. I've said this to many people recently. Whatever it is that you desire, whatever knowledge you want, whatever dreams you wish to pursue, lie just beyond your comfort zone, no matter who you are. I really believe that.
That's where the satisfaction of a journey comes, is being like pushing beyond your comfort zone. Exactly. Now, you have explained this sort of thing, like you've had the pleasure, the honor of being in front of children and talking to them about this. Like you mentioned before the show that you do some substitute teaching as
Yep.
well. And there's a particular philosophy that incorporates a lot of stuff going on in your life, which is always cool to see. Like the different circles, the different in the Venn diagram that is your life. A lot of your circles tend to intersect in the same area, which is the phrase that you wanted to impart on these kids.
Might makes right.
Then explain a little bit about like I said, the pleasure you've had of talking to children and explaining that.
Might makes right. This is a big part of when we start talking about martial arts or physical self improvement of any kind, whether it be from your diet or exercise or taking on physical challenges or applying yourself to something like martial arts or sports. I try to tell the kids, and these are 14 and 15-year-olds, just so we're clear that I'm not telling this to second
first
graders.
Yeah.
Although the message would not be lost on first graders.
I was going to say, you're never too young to learn,
Right.
And especially the sooner that, or in some cases, I would assume not having children myself, it would seem to me logically.
Yeah, they're pretty stupid the first couple of years, dude. They don't remember much. So,
But I mean, talking to kids as older than they are, like when I talk to Abby and Izzy, I speak to them like normal.
Like
normal
Izzy's 6 now, so like she's just now getting to the point where like she's gonna remember, her Uncle Matt. She's gonna remember Tuck. She's gonna remember going to Disney. But when they're like 2 and they're 3, they don't really remember anything.
Can kids
colors.
learn important lessons at any age? I
Sure.
believe yes.
Yeah.
But I also believe that adolescence and pre-adolescence is the perfect time to strike
Sure.
with the good stuff.
Yeah.
Because that is when it's most confusing, most stressful, most chaotic. And that's when the kids at that age are seeking answers in a way that they will not seek again for another 15 or 20 years.
Yeah.
They won't. They're gonna get through their adolescence, and they're gonna come into a phase of complacency that we all are familiar with if we've been through our 20s, where they're just living. They're not really asking any questions. They're not really seeking anything out through their 20s. And then as we enter mature adulthood in our 30s, for many of us, we begin to ask these questions. But now it's not wasted to learn it at that later age, but it's just as much true that it's not wasted to be exposed to these ideas right before you hit adolescence.
It's that stage right after the fundamentals. I mean, letters and colors and numbers and all that stuff.
How often do we say, "I wish somebody would have told me this"?
Oh yeah, that is the engine behind 3231 is
So
the to have that voice that you wish you would have heard of. Yeah.
So here's what I tell them. Might makes right is the name of the discussion. It's the title, whatever you want to call it. If you wish to have a positive impact on the world, if it is in your mind to develop yourself into a good person, an intelligent person, a wise person, somebody who has not only their own best interest at heart, but everyone else's best interest, the most noble of causes, right? You then bear the responsibility to protect that spirit. Because to be harmless is to be nothing. To have good intent and wisdom and intellect and knowledge, that's a beautiful thing. But the truth of the matter is that an ignorant but violent and strong person can come into the room and make you do whatever they want you to do. And it always has been that way, and it always will be that way. So the lesson becomes, if you believe yourself that you want to be righteous, that you want to be good, and that you want to do good things, and that you want to be smart, and you want to share that.
Virtuous.
Yeah. If you want to be great, and you want to share that with other people, you now have the responsibility to make yourself somebody who could not be forced by violence to do something different. You have a responsibility. If you're going to be that person, you have to protect that person. And you protect that person by making yourself strong in a way that no one else can deal with. And then you put that strength in your pocket and you go about your life being the best possible person that you can be,
Mm-hmm.
be all that you want to be. And when some evil force, evil, violent, strong force rises up to threaten you, you pull that shit out of your pocket, you beat them to the ground, step on their throat, and claim, on I go.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That is the lesson. Without the might, you cannot be right.
Yeah.
Without the strength, no matter how smart you are, no matter how good you are, all it takes is a violent, ignorant person to come and stop you.
That's unfortunate in a sense, but like it's reality that survival is still an aspect of human nature. That it's just because we can talk about society, we can talk about civilization, we can talk about becoming more and evolving and all that stuff, but it's still a matter of human nature that you have to defend yourself against other people, because even though you may hold yourself to a certain standard, a certain level, not everybody does, and so you have to have that defense. You have to have that security capability to
Peace through superior firepower.
Yeah, exactly. But not that holds true, literally physically. To be able to defend yourself, like it's something that you've known about, I've known about. I mean, we're pretty much all familiar with. But when you're on your own in this world, as you don't want to necessarily say it like this, but it is the truth that you are. Anybody that may come into your life, you're always going to be with you. No matter who else you're with, you wake up with you in the morning.
Yeah.
You're with you at the end of the night, and so you have yourself to depend on as an individual to take care of yourself.
Right.
It's nice to have other people that you can depend on, but in the end, we're all individuals following our own path, and it is necessary to have that sort of thing. And like you said, to be able to tell a kid at the beginning, life may be unfair, life may be tough. You'll have challenges in your life, but to have that capability of defending yourself. And it could be literally physically a fight. It could be dealing with somebody a test of mental
to have
strength.
the strength when somebody challenges you to rise to that challenge and beat it back.
A test of conviction, if
Yeah.
you will, something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Another part of that that lesson with the kids was don't fall into the same trap that I did, and that most people do. The trap is you tell yourself what you will do if you have to, but you don't practice it.
Mm.
That is a trap, and it can be a deadly trap because a false sense of capabilities is not a good thing
It's
to
really
be walking
easy
around with.
not to do something.
Yeah,
And all the training that I haven't done, it was really easy not to do all that training.
exactly.
It's
and
a huge mistake. It's a huge
most
trap.
of my life, even though I had, as we'll learn in
I'm really good at
future-
staring at a screen, though.
future
I
conversations.
can lay on that couch and I could stare at that wall for hours.
Yeah.
And you can say to yourself that you know certain things and that you have the capability of doing certain things.
Right.
It's not gonna
But
help
because
you
you're
when
not
you're
doing
getting
it,
choked
you're
out
not-
and stabbed.
Putting it into practice is a great part of
Well,
Just-
it's a lie.
yeah.
And here's the day you know it's a lie. The day you challenge it.
Yeah.
Whether that challenge finds you or you find the challenge, the day that you challenge it is the day you'll realize that you've been lying to yourself your whole life. For me, the lie was I've been doing hard things around hard people in hard situations all my life. I'm ready for whatever comes my way. That was the lie. I did sports I did contact sports when I was in high school. It was always rough and rowdy and in the weight room and strong and whatever you want to call it. And the kind of guys that I hung out with were beating each other up all the time, and the wrestling and all that kind of stuff. That was my high school experience. And then I went on to rodeo, and I'm a rough stock rider in the rodeo, riding bulls in the rodeo. There's no tougher archetype of male than the rodeo bull rider,
What about the clowns?
Yeah.
What-
And
what-
then the people that were in my network through those years, just a hard group of people that are always hard on each other, and there's always a threat of a fight breaking out, and all that kind of stuff. And then it was music and the travel and always on my own. Because of that life experience, I had told myself all my life, I can handle myself.
Yeah.
I know what's up.
I'm tough because I've been tough and I've surrounded myself with tough people.
Yes.
Doesn't necessarily equate to I'm prepared for the
Yeah.
next the next challenge.
The
yeah.
day I walked through the doors of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu was the day that I learned about the lie. And I was 38 years old. And when I left that night, the first night I went there, when I left that night, the thought that was in my head as I drove home was, thank God I've never been tested before today because I could have been killed
Yeah.
or robbed or whatever you want to call it. My life could have been very, very different if I had ever been tested before I sought out the test for myself. If the test had come to me,
Yeah.
it would have been bad. So that's another thing. That's another thing that comes with that lesson for the kids is the message of might makes right, and how, you know, the importance of empowering yourself physically and mentally to take on a challenge should it come your way, but also the warning of lying to yourself about what you're capable of.
Yep. The perception, as opposed to like well, there would be the exception of the rule. I was gonna say we often say on this show that perception is reality. It's a big part of our lives, but also that the having a misconception is just as much is a big danger to that as well.
There's a guy that comes into our gym, and so that we know that this door swings both ways, because I'm 5'6", 150, right, and I'm 42 years old. Not what most people on site consider to be a threat, right? So for me to say these things means something, right? Oh, well, he's smaller. It's different if you're bigger and more imposing and stronger. You know, you really are capable of more. Let me tell you a story. Guy that started coming in 6 months ago to our jiu-jitsu gym. He is 6'4", 250 pounds, 40 years old, built like a linebacker. This dude is jacked, and the top of his body is a V. He is your nightmare of who you would not want to be upset with you. He had a military career, and after that he became a defensive line coach for university, for football, university level football. That's his life has been aggressive, competitive, athletic, and mean. This guy comes into our gym, and I'm 5'6", 150, 42 years old. My buddy Wes, he's about 5'7", 160, 170 maybe, and he's 38 years old. And we're the two guys that this guy has to deal with when he comes in. And
Gets to binge into pretzels.
He could not believe it.
Yeah.
He could not believe that somebody half his size could just, and he's telling the same lie. I've been in the military. I've been around these tough guys. I'm this big, strong, capable person. Nobody messes with me anywhere that I go, just on my appearance, right? He comes into our gym, and he's going to spar with these two guys that are half his size, one at a time, of course. And he can't do anything to save himself. He can do nothing to save himself. He can't stop our attack. He can't defend our attack. And all he can do is get choked out and then tap out again and again and again and again and again. And his attitude, which is perfect over time, was, this is amazing. I need this in my life so much to clear my perspective on what I'm capable of. So now he's religious about it. He comes every night now, and of course 6 months later he's got some skill built up, so we can't handle him no more because he is bigger and stronger. But I wanted to give that example of, doesn't matter if you're bigger and stronger, right? The fact remains that if you are not actively trying to make yourself better and harder, that you are falling behind.
Yeah.
And
especially after 40.
Yeah, and also the fact that, like, the great lesson is that no matter what position you are, you're always in a place to learn. There's never not a learning opportunity.
Yeah.
There's never not a chance to improve yourself. Like, nobody's in that place. And it's like, it's cliche, and yet it seems it seems really wild that lesson never goes away. The minute you said this guy comes in and he's a big guy, I'm like, I bet he thinks that he has nothing to learn.
And well, I don't think he thought he had nothing to learn. He wouldn't have been there, but he certainly had the same. He had been telling himself the same lie that I had been telling myself before I came and found that challenge. I've had this life. I'm this guy.
Ready.
I'm capable. I can handle myself. And for me, I went in there and even though the guys were bigger and stronger, I was completely helpless, which was unexpected.
Yep.
Right? I thought surely I can handle myself enough to keep no. And it was the same story for this giant athletic,
there's just more of him
formidable man.
Yeah.
It's reassuring to have those type of experiences through somebody else's eyes as well, to be like, I learned this lesson, that guy learned this lesson. That's part of the ultimate truth that
and
you
he's
connect
still
to.
he gets very excited about it. I'm friends with him now. We're going on like a 12-mile hike next week, I guess, somewhere. But that's like
that was the guy who was really into hiking you were mentioning.
One of his hobbies.
All right.
But he just craves to have these kinds of discussions concerning the martial arts thing. Like, he's just so excited that he found a physical challenge in his life that his size and strength and talents could not overcome. Only by applying himself to learn could he overcome the challenge. He was not strong enough. No matter how strong he tried to be, he couldn't stop a 150-pound guy from just choking the shit out of him.
And the fact that he's excited about that makes you feel good to know that some people, that's the kind of people you want to surround yourself with, are people that welcome the challenge, that welcome the new opportunities. And you're certainly a person in our lives that has experienced quite a bit. Like he
never stopped adding to the list, buddy.
I was just about to say, like in the years of your life, like it certainly hasn't stopped anytime soon. That you're still pursuing other things. So we have a list here of the stuff that you've been involved with. Like you mentioned, the rodeo, that you've been a farrier, shoeing horses. You've horse racing as well. You certainly traveled the world.
The United States anyway.
Traveled the United States. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, traveled the United States. We joked before the show saying a modern Renaissance man, and you mentioned that you didn't want to necessarily consider yourself like the classical sense, which is the worldly, well-traveled, like
the aristocrat,
Yeah, the aristocrat of everything. But like a modern Renaissance man would simply mean somebody that does not stick to one thing. That you welcome a variety of opportunities, a variety of experiences. You welcome all that. And martial arts is one of those things that, like, never a bad lesson, never a missed opportunity to learn.
Right.
There's too many opportunities to keeping your mind open to that. Also, speaking on the spirituality sense, like you've also been involved with like the Freemasons, and being a part of, I can understand the attraction to that as well. Being a part of a community that is focused on creating and learning and teaching and all that, everything involved, in addition to seeking truth, seeking knowledge. That's been another aspect that has been a big part of your life as well. The thing I want to ask about Freemasonry is, like, there's certain things that you can't in the past that more recently things have come to light in Freemasonry. They've been less secretive about what Freemasonry is. I had a friend of mine who was involved in the Freemasons who just simply never talked about it. Anytime you bring it up, he's like, I can't really talk about it, or we don't talk about it. Just matter of fact on it. Is there a lot of that like, is that part of being a Freemason, being involved with that? Is that you don't reveal that?
It depends on what you want to get out of being a Freemason. What we have now is called the Modern Lodge. The Modern Lodge is only about 250 years old, right? And the Modern Lodge is more of a fraternity than what the ancient mystery school of the days of yore was. An initiate in the Freemasons in the older times was somebody who begins to seek. they have come to a plateau in their life where they find their daily pursuits to be unsatisfying, and the questions begin to emerge: where did I come from? Why am I here? And where am I going? And once you begin to ask those questions, you become an initiate of the mystery school, and you begin to seek out people who can answer these questions for you. And the Freemasons has been a standard of the people who can answer. That's where it used to be. Now, when we enter the modern lodge as an entered apprentice Mason, what you're doing is you're going through a rite to enter a fraternity. Right? Do you understand the difference? So before, it was proclaiming that I am prepared to seek knowledge. Now they've taken that ancient rite of proclaiming that you're ready to seek knowledge, and they've turned it into a ritual where you just say these things, and you repeat these stories, which we call rituals or degrees.
Sure.
You repeat these stories, and these stories are allegories to remind us, right, of what it is to begin to seek if you're an entered apprentice, and what it is to do the work if you are a fellow craft mason, and what it is to share the perfection of the work you have done, which is what it is to be a master mason. We go through these rites, rituals, and degrees, and we repeat these stories, these allegories, and these allegories are intended to remind us of those lessons.
Yep.
But not everybody knows that, because just like the difference between what we talked about before, the difference between getting something very deep and spiritual and personal growth out of martial arts versus becoming a great MMA fighter. Just because your focus is different and you might miss the deeper thing that's happening doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Well, the basis of martial arts is allegory as well, because the people that made those that made the fighting styles, that made the what we call martial arts, the disciplines, whatever you want to call it, the schools of martial art, were people that were in fields using, or the people that of an earlier time that were just trying to defend themselves and have a better understanding of their bodies, and using nature as the basis for their understanding to defend themselves and to their spirituality and all as well. So like the you're not grabbing a rake or a pitchfork or something like that out of from your fields to defend yourselves against incoming raids from the
Mongol invaders.
Hordes of exactly. So you're not immediately feeling that imminent danger and need to prepare yourself in that way. But with Freemasons, it's not. The old ways are now a lesson. You try not to forget the old ways.
Right.
The traditions come from that. The stuff comes from that, so that you can learn how to apply that to your life.
Right.
You're learning from previous experience,
so
and honoring it is the important.
The dots that I was wanting to connect was just like the guy who misses some of the lessons of martial arts because he's focused on becoming a great fighter.
Yeah.
Most Masons miss the value of these rites and rituals because they're focused on becoming part of the lodge, right? Their goal may not be at this point, at their entered apprentice level, their goal might not yet be to seek. Their goal might be to get into the lodge.
Because one thing that some people may not realize about the Freemasons is because of that fraternity, you're connecting yourself with a community like the church, another good example, because it falls in line. I wouldn't necessarily call it a religion per se, but it's certainly
it's supplemental to
any
Judeo-Christian religion.
I was going to say it's a spiritual establishment, but
well, it's just a fraternal order, though.
Yeah, but
right? That's how you classify the Masons, or how would the Masons be different than?
So I'm feeding all these ideas down into the central idea of it is what you make it.
Yeah,
right. Most guys who are entering are not making it much more than a fraternity. So,
and that's what I was trying to say. Like the connection of being part of this community, you have advantages of having a relationship with the other members of the community that may have something that can be of use to you.
Right.
A connection
Right.
that you can resource that you can use to better yourself in your life and improve parts of your life.
Right. And I want to answer your earlier question about the secrets, because this is all this is about answering that question.
Yep.
To guys that are focused on being a fraternity member, just like people who read the Bible and want to take the stories literally instead of pulling the lessons from the allegory, right? These guys that are it's very important to them to be in this fraternity. They take those rites to be very literal, right? And so they make up these rules that for themselves. These aren't the rules. These are rules that are made up by guys who don't understand what they're doing, or who have a very loose understanding of what they're doing, maybe, right? So they make up these rules of, it's all secrets. We keep these secrets. Don't ever tell anybody these secrets. Well, personally, I've become somebody who, after 6 years as a master mason, I began to pursue this deeper spiritual knowledge. Why am I here? Where did I come from and where am I going? I wanted these questions answered, and thusly the Masons hadn't done it for me, so I began independent study, which led me to a Mason in Alabama who I had gone to school with. And he said, I am so glad to hear that you're studying this stuff. I will help you. I'm going to send you books, and I'm going to send you lists of books that you can help you to answer these questions. I'm pretty fresh at it. I'm only 6 months into really going at it hard. But thusly, the main lesson that I've learned about Freemasonry and the secrets of Freemasonry is this. The secrets are to be kept alive, not kept.
Mm-hmm.
The Masons exist. The secrets of the Masons are ours to protect so that people can have exposure to them, so that they don't die off and get choked out and killed by culture. We protect these secrets. We're supposed to be sharing them. We're supposed to be enriching our own lives and the lives of our communities through these lessons that we have access to through a brotherhood of people who are supposed to be learning this stuff and sharing it with each other and sharing it with everyone else.
Not to be hidden from the world,
Not
but to be hidden from corruption.
Yes.
Exactly.
Exactly. So I personally have taken on a much refreshed vision of what my responsibility as a Freemason is. And I scoff at the idea of keeping anything from the Freemasons a secret. First of all, the rites and rituals, there ain't nothing worth being secret about it. It bores me to tears to open up a lodge and close a lodge and all the different things we have to go through. There is nothing mystical, magical, or anything in between about the rites, rituals, and degrees of Freemasonry. What is mystical and magical about it is exposing yourself to learning where these rites and rituals come from and why we do them. Now you're getting into the meat and potatoes of things. Mm-hmm. Now you are understanding that there is universal truths floating around out there that you know that you don't know that you know. Mm-hmm. And then finally you read something that connects you to that idea that you're like, of course, obviously, this is a universal truth. This is amazing. I feel less apprehensive, less afraid,
less burdened,
everything. Yeah. I feel more of everything because I now know that this is not just some weird idea floating around in my head, but that the reason that this idea is in my head is because it's part of the universe. Yeah. It's part of a universal truth. And now that I've seen it written down and seen that it's been the foundation of every major religion and every major movement in the history of mankind.
In history of history.
Yeah. It's like I can now accept that I don't have to worry about if I'm right or wrong. Like, oh, what if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong about heaven and hell? Mm-hmm. What if I'm wrong about what's right and wrong?
Yeah.
What if I'm wrong about which religion I choose? Mm-hmm. That's all gone for me now because I've applied myself to these ancient ideas that all these religions and all these ideas are built on. So now I've surpassed and gone under the bridge of this religion is the best or that religion is wrong. Mm-hmm. And I've passed into this world of universal truth is right and we all know it. Mm-hmm. There's no question about it. Mm-hmm. You don't have to worry about what's really right and what's really wrong. Oh, if my dad gets in an argument with me and I tell him to fuck off, is that right or is that wrong? Well, in certain religions or certain religious principles, that can be construed as wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But when
no respect for your parent,
when you
or anything.
pass
respecting your elders. Yeah.
when you pass under that bridge and go to the well of universal truth for right and wrong, you can see that the measurement or the metric by which you measure right and wrong becomes, is it what's best for me and everyone around me? And that's it.
Yep.
And that's all.
Mm-hmm.
If it's what's best for me and those around me,
Mm-hmm.
then it's right. It doesn't matter what it looks like. It matters what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And there's the that's the thing too, is that there's just something that comes with age and experience, understanding the nature of the world and to see the world as it is. Like, it's a never-ending pursuit. You're always learning. Your reality changes all the time because your perception changes all the time, and the understanding tradition. But like you say, some traditions being taken as, no, this is the only way.
Right.
And I wouldn't call it corruption of those ideas, but certainly, and I don't want to use perversion as to really like knock this, but it's an unfortunate thing that happens, the distortion of those traditions. People can take those things and over time distort them to a certain degree that it becomes something that's absolutely not related.
Well, especially
to the
when
thing.
people rise to positions of power with these ideas.
Yeah.
Like, now everybody's got to do what I say.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
And like, it's easy to I always compare the human brain to a computer. Like, I always did, I loved growing up in school at a time where computers were starting to be understood on a daily basis, like the nature of computers, garbage in, garbage out. It's a term that I say that to people, to younger kids, and they don't know what that means. And it's like, really, they don't teach that in school anymore? Garbage in, garbage out was like part of the daily thing when I was in school, of whatever data you have is based off the data. Like, perception is reality. What if if you're given bad information and told that that's the way that the world is, that's what you see the world as, until later on you realize, oh, that's not the case at all. Like, some of the mistakes that I've made in my life was because I've been taught that your father is dad, your mother is mom, and but my mom is Elaine and my father is William. And they're people that have had their own, they were messed up people, raised by messed up people, raised by messed up people, and all that information over generations has gotten to me, to that this is the way that the world is, because that's the way that I was taught the world is. But some part of themselves know that that's not the way that the world is, just how they were raised. And so it takes, I could teach somebody else the wrong lesson because of what I've learned. Mm-hmm. And everybody makes mistakes, and that's a whole part of it. But like you're saying, people receive information. They perceive Freemasonry as being one thing, and so they never get that opportunity to experience what you've experienced, or anything else that's happened in your life. You hear the word, like we talked about that on the previous show. You hear the word homeless, and someone has immediately a perception of what the word means. They have an image in their head, a prejudice. And they say that's what it is because that's what I remember it is. But then you explain what it was like, you being on the road and the travels that you've had, and it was an amazing experience. That's something that can change your life. Me being in the position where I am, where I'm living in a van, is something like living unconventionally, living against what someone said the world is. You go to school, and then you graduate from school, and then you need to find somebody, find a mate, and then you need to get a job, and get married to that mate, and make kids, and go to college, and then get the money together, put them to college,
and die.
Yeah, exactly.
Get that house first. Get that mortgage.
Yeah, the house and the job and the car, the kids, the picket fence, make the money so that the kids go to school, and then you retire, and then
and
that's
of course we've all heard the old adage, it takes all types to make the worlds go round.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
It is important that some people pursue that, what you just described. For those who that is where their sweet spot is, that is representative of them being the most that they can be. It's important that those people are out there doing that.
But it's a percentage,
right? For
of
people,
the spectrum,
different people.
lifestyles.
Some people are the most that they can ever hope to be, like the apex of their existence in this plane of reality, is to be a street busker.
Yep.
You know, playing music on a street corner somewhere is the greatest thing that they can contribute to the universe. It's important that that guy's out there. Some people, the greatest thing they contribute to the universe is to become Bill Gates. Luckily, Bill Gates is out there being Bill Gates. But it's different for everybody. And everybody needs to be the most excellent that they can be.
Yeah.
Not what somebody else thinks is the most excellent that they should be. Whatever it is that's in you that drives you to do the most that you can do, you need to be out there doing it.
Yep.
And for some people, it's that American dream. It's the you graduate from high school and you go right into college and you meet a girl in college and you marry her the day you graduate and you buy a house together and you have children the next day.
40-hour work
all
week,
that
3
stuff.
square meals a day.
It's important for that guy to exist. Why? Because that is the most advantageous situation for his child to grow up in and be something completely different, right? Now, because that guy lived that life, his child gets to come up in a stable household where there's no real worries and they're protected from the annoyances and the noise of the world in a way that allows them to perceive life in a completely different way. We have to have that guy doing that life so we can have that kid thinking about things that a kid with a much harder life or a much different life doesn't get to think about. It's important that everybody's out there doing what it is that they feel drawn or called to do. So I can't disregard or disrespect the American dream, but I can say it wasn't for me until it was. I started the American dream at 36, right?
Sure.
And no college education.
Yeah.
Right.
Then one of the things that you had done as well, because we'll talk about this, like, in your time, as we meant, going down the list of things that you've done, you've traveled, you've been, like you mentioned, the rodeo and stuff like that. Blacksmithing is a big part of your life as well.
Yep.
That's part. Was that the craft, the Freemasonry, the
No, it was an idea that I had. So forge work or blacksmithing is a cornerstone of farrier work. I'm a farrier. I've been a farrier since I was 19 years old. So a farrier is a horseshoer. And you get an introduction to forge work when you go to farrier school. You have to learn how to work metal in a fire so that you can build horseshoes and apply them to the feet.
And let's take one more step further. You said you were 19 when you
Yeah.
got into farrier. So you grew up on a farm, near a farm?
Near a farm.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't come from livestock lineage, really. I'm kind of a one-off in my family. My grandparents had 20 acres, and they raised some sheep, and they bought me a horse, when I was a teenager. But we weren't cattle people or horse people, and I didn't come from that. My dad didn't teach me that.
So what was your in?
My in was, I had a buddy when I was growing up named Bert Wallington. And Bert Wallington, his dad was a cattle guy. And so whenever I would go somewhere with Bert when we were a little kid, like 12-year-olds or whatever, I would go over to his house and we'd walk around in the cow pastures, and I'd be exposed to cattle that way. And we would go to livestock auctions with his dad, and I got to be around cattle that way. But mostly we went to rodeos. And, that was kind of a really big deal to go to rodeos with Bert Wallington and his dad, because his dad had been a rodeo rider. And so we would gain access, further access than the grandstands, right? We'd go back and talk to the guys and act like we were part of the deal and whatever.
So I'm assuming from what you just said that I'm getting a rock star vibe kind of thing, the backstage kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Similar kind of experience.
Yeah. Well, and another thing is to remember is I was, and still am to this day, but I was always the smallest. I was always small, and when I was a little kid, I was weak too, like small and weak. I get stolen on all the time. So this romanticized idea of this hard, independent person that don't take no shit off nobody.
Cowboy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Walks around tough, throws his shit down and a big billow of dust comes up, very cool, very romantic, So, but beyond my reach until Bert did it. And I never thought he would. You know, that wasn't that we're from northern Michigan. So when you think northern Michigan, you don't think feedlots.
Yeah.
You know, you don't think rodeos. And I didn't. And neither did my parents. Like, my parents never really got behind the whole deal. But Bert went and started riding bulls in rodeo when we were 16 years old. And once he broke the barrier, so to speak, I was like, well, Bert's not got any of the athletic capabilities I have. If he can do it, there's no way I can't do it. So I went on, and that's how I entered that world. And that was one of the first. I mean, there was one or two tests that came before that of challenges of this is scary, and I'm smaller, and I can get hurt really bad. What do I want to do?
Mm-hmm.
So challenges had come before that in sports, in high school sports. But most people recognize high school sports as being acceptable risk levels.
Yeah.
Most people consider riding bulls in a rodeo to be unacceptable risk level. Like,
Do you even have helmets? They have helmets, right?
they do now.
They do now.
not
Okay,
when
they
I-
didn't have
Right.
helmets back then.
Yeah.
No, we didn't do that back then. But
You have, when you're talking sports in school, you're talking collegiate or professional level sports is not too far away from the high school level. It's
Yeah.
just a matter of money and management and all that
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah.
But when you're talking going to a rodeo kind of thing, you're dealing with like rock star astronaut type of a
Yeah.
setup where it's like,
Well, yeah, what you're doing is so far removed from what most people's threshold of acceptable risk
yeah,
that they can't even wrap their head around what makes you function,
yeah,
right? So it's instant rock star status. If you are performing in front of a crowd, it doesn't matter even if you're good at it or not. The fact that you are doing it is a spectacle.
yeah.
And people respond to that in a way much the way they respond to rock stars. Like, oh my God, they just want to touch you,
Yeah.
you know? And
That there's a cool thing with that. I just wanted to note the fact that I'm so much into professional wrestling, and that's something that Ben and I have started a conversation about because it's something that it's going to become more common for us to discuss this because now being in Tennessee, like that's something you just got to take advantage of. The two things, as a matter of fact, you should take advantage of in Tennessee is a wrestling show and a rodeo. I mean, there's so many similarities of that and similarities of the like local music scene versus local independent wrestling versus I'm sure like the
Rodeo
low level
scene,
rodeo
yeah.
scene
well,
kind of thing.
wrestling,
There's
the
different
way
legit-
that wrestling and rodeo are similar. I just described that because what you're doing is so far past the threshold of what most people will accept as being something you can do.
Acceptable behavior first of all, and
that
then yeah,
it's like you're not even a human.
yeah, exactly.
Wrestling,
Yep.
part of wrestling is making yourself physically appear like you're not even human. So you're in this funny Twilight Zone type situation where the people that you're watching, it doesn't even matter what they're doing. It's a spectacle just to see them walk down the runway because
Yeah.
they're not human beings.
Buying into the fantasy of being the larger than life, having
Yeah.
people be marks, to have people believe.
Yeah.
And what's that one? What do they call that? Something disbelief. What's the word I'm looking
Suspended.
for? Suspended disbelief. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. Sorry, it was important for me to get that out of my system. But no, I absolutely agree. I get that. So this is the state that you were in, getting into the rodeo scene.
Yeah, well, it took a while because you feel that way. You feel that relationship with you and the audience, even at the lowest levels, right? Because you fantasize, because television has helped us do that a lot, because you fantasize about being your hero that you saw on TV,
Yep.
right? So even when you're 16 years old and you're at a county fair and there's 200 people in the audience, when you hit the ground after a ride, in your mind's eye, there are 8,000 people
Yep.
screaming their heads off,
Yeah.
right? So you feel that way. But it takes a while to get to the point where the audience feels that way. And so 3 years later, I joined the pro ranks at 18 years old. I got my permit and went pro. And now I'm riding in front of 3,000, 5,000 people. And when you put the banner Pro Rodeo up, it helps that image, that disconnection. Like, not only is this guy, this is one of my neighbors that's just doing this at the county fair. now
You're legit.
there's a
really see
whole
some talent, yeah.
theatrics involved in it, you know, the showmanship of
Yep.
it, and the fact that people have come to watch the professional
Mm-hmm.
rough stock riders go against the toughest stock that we could find, you know, and stuff like that. So once you're in that situation, that's when the Messiah complex kind of comes in, where people are wanting to be around you just because of
Living legend.
yeah.
Whatever. Yeah. That's cool. That's awesome. It's so fun to see that at certain levels, like how many times you put whatever you want, you put whatever coat of paint you want on it, but the person sees the guy on TV and it's his hero, like you say, and they're like, I want to be that guy on TV. And then you get to the point where you are that guy on TV, like you get to see it as you know, to get on the other side of it, whether it's music, whether it's wrestling, whether it's rodeo. That is so cool to see that.
And it is extremely frightening. And the better you are, the more frightening. And that sounds funny, but I'm going to explain it in what I feel like is a very important lesson about these types of people, these larger than life performers that take larger than life risks. And what better place to find that individual than in the professional bull riders, you know. These people who become legends within the sport, the Tough Hedeman and, you know, the Adriano Marias and these types of cornerstones of the sport, they're not like the rest of us. And when I say the rest of us, I include myself. Did I do the sport for 8 years? Yes. 5 as a pro? Yes. Did I win? Yep. Did I compete against these guys, these legends? Sometimes. Sometimes I even beat some of them. You know, I got outscored them and won some of their money. Sometimes. But that career was 8 years long, 5 in the pros, and only sometimes. And it's a world of fear and worry, because it's death-defying stunts every night.
Right.
And when I say death-defying stunts, I don't mean like we practice this and if everything goes right, it'll look cool, but if it goes wrong, we could die. There's nothing that's controlled.
You could die every time.
Every time
time you
could be the
die.
time that you get your head stepped on,
Yeah.
or your arm caught in a hinge, or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
Every time could be the time that your life is going to change forever
That
or
bull
end.
is just going to
Because make no mistake to the viewer, you are strapping yourself to a wild to an animal.
Yeah,
I mean,
it is as dangerous.
How big are
as
those bulls? Like, I mean,
1,600 to 2,200.
oh my god, so like
1,600
a ton.
A car.
Like literally like a ton.
Yeah,
You're strapping
Well,
yourself to a living,
and they're
breathing
not
car.
happy about it.
And they're a very pissed off car.
And they're fast. They're extremely fast. But look,
Do they do anything
what
to
it
make them
takes
more
to
angry?
do what it takes to no.
Okay,
They're
just
just
angry enough.
they're like a meathead.
Okay.
They're like any large, strong, capable, violent individual. That is their attitude coming into it. If they don't have that attitude, they don't become bucking bulls, right? But I don't want to get off in the weeds on that. I want to stay on this vein of different people that are cut out for different things. At the level that I was at, and at every level below where I was at, where I was at was treading water.
Yep.
I could stay out there. I could win enough to stay on the road without a job to support me. That's pretty damn good in amongst all the people that try the sport. That's like in the upper 80th percentile of people that are trying the sport, like top 20%. Those legends, the things that eventually wore me down like water over a rock and took away my edge to be able to compete at something like that. The river of worry and negative self-doubt eventually beats you down.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can only handle so much of it. You're always almost going to die.
Yep.
Always. Every fucking night, you're almost going to die, right? And for the average person, that's unacceptable for one night. For the type of person like myself who went out and did it for several years, it becomes unacceptable eventually.
Yeah.
Like, I can't take this shit anymore. I suck now. I'm not even mean. And
It's got to shoot your it's got to just wreck your nerves.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
what you're-
eventually you're just not tough enough, and you're not aggressive enough anymore because you're so busy being worried about what's going to happen. You can't stop it anymore. You can't stop the fear from mowing you down.
It's like being in an abusive relationship with somebody.
Right.
Yeah, and to a lesser degree, that goes with a lot of things, like with music, with professional wrestling, with being a pilot, being in the military.
Yeah.
Like you have a certain mindset of people that are meant to be the
Yes.
grunts, that are meant to
Yes.
be behind the desks, even
Yeah.
in a career in the military. Then you have the test pilots,
Yeah.
and you have the Navy SEAls,
Yeah.
who are just on a different level.
Yeah.
The Marines, that
That's
sort of thing.
exactly
like you're
what I'm
just
talking
on
about.
a different level.
These legends of that sport
Yeah.
they're basically not even human beings.
Yeah.
And what I mean is their threshold for stress over an extended period of time, you're talking about 20 years, 25 years in the sport, and not 20 years, 25 years floating around at the bottom, winning some and losing some. 20 years in the sport at the top level, being tested by the most difficult stock with the highest expectations placed on them by the audience. That's a big one. When you know that people, like, you can't phone it in today because 10,000 people showed up live and 3 million are tuning in to see you do this thing.
Yeah.
You can't, like, I've got to fucking do.
And a certain contingency of those people are looking for you to make a mistake.
Yeah.
Like they want to
Oh
see
yeah,
the-
they could be happier if you fucking
They
break
wanna
your
see the
back.
car
And
wreck.
money.
blood.
You
And
know,
the money.
we're gonna pay you $1 million if you can pull this off
The
tonight.
business
If you
on top
can't,
of it,
if
yeah.
you can't, nothing. So these guys that become the legends, they do that every day. They take that beating, that emotional beating every day for 25, 30 years and become that legend. It's like, as somebody who went through it for 8 years and then couldn't take anymore, and then comparing myself to people who wouldn't even attempt it once because that threshold is moved back for one reason or another, it's like these people, there's a reason why we celebrate them.
Yep.
We celebrate them because they're not like us.
Yep.
They show us, they give us a glimpse at what a human being is capable of doing, and thereby inspire us to reach a little further. But we know that they are special.
Yep.
We know that they are special, especially if you've tried to do it yourself. You know how special somebody is that becomes a legend.
Yeah, and the romantic side of it and terrifying side of it, which
Yeah.
is
They're scared too.
Yeah.
They don't get away with that. They just control it better. It's not like Tough Hedeman isn't afraid. He is afraid, or was. He's older now and doesn't do it anymore. But he's one of the great legends that when you say his name, people recognize it. So, like, he is afraid he's going to die today, and then goes out and performs.
Yep.
What is it with the kids ride the sheep?
Yeah.
Is that a competitive thing, or is that just
No,
like
it's not.
novelty
It's a
thing?
sideshow. Yeah.
Okay.
It's just a sideshow novelty.
So there's no leagues for that or whatever.
No.
Because I would totally go to see kids riding like 4-year-old kids riding sheep.
Yeah.
like
So
in
the
a real
World
race.
Championship of mutton busting.
Is that what it's called? Mutton busting.
That's
Okay.
awesome.
Yeah, mutton busting is what they call it.
That's awesome.
But the World Championship, that would be something that is held locally.
Mm-hmm.
And like the same rodeo production company did like 10 shows around a particular region within a year. And they might have a little mutton busting circuit. And at the end, they will crown a world champion of mutton busting. But there is no kids going
Yeah.
around.
No
and actually-
organized circuit or
Yeah, no
whatever.
organized
Yeah.
circuit.
But I dig that. Like there's like you were talking about, everybody has their place
Yeah.
and they have their rank in the world, and it's not something to really sneeze at. It's something to appreciate that somebody has their path, their place. I'm getting more into that as we go. That the entry level, local level of music and the local level of wrestling, and like I said, rodeo, or like I was talking to Ben about like dirt track racing and stuff, because we went to go see a monster truck show in south of here, and it wasn't a big production. It was like I can appreciate that sort of thing at that level, like.
Without these guys doing this, you don't get Bigfoot and Grave Digger.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like to really appreciate.
How many little kids was at their first monster truck rally? That you know what I mean? Like,
Or like
ours, it was our girl's first
Yeah.
monster truck rally. She's
Yeah.
gonna remember that the rest of her life.
Right, or like I said, the dirt track racing or roping or any of those type of sports, any of those type of events that you can go to, like I was talking about, like mud bogs and demolition derbies and all that, and roller derby and all that sort of thing, where it's just like it's fun, it's a good show. People are, there's competition. There's, it's alive. It's a production. They're putting their heart and soul into it, and it could, like, mutton busting sounds amazing. The not taking it seriously, as some people would call it, but it's like, no, screw that. That's something that people can have passion and enjoy doing. We're in a place right now where cultures are getting involved with, like, card games, like the trading card, like the
Pokemon.
Yeah, Pokemon or Magic the Gathering, or the tabletop role playing games to some degree, but that's less a competitive thing. But like the collectible card games and esports, sort of thing as well.
Esports is now a billion-dollar industry. I mean, there's a lot of money tied up in that. People killing each other in video games online.
Yeah, but it's not a matter of when I was younger to see a band on MTV making their music videos, and then it was me and them, and nothing in between. No, there's plenty of stuff in between. There's a whole range of stuff. I'm sure you could attest to that with rodeo as well, and with independent wrestling and stuff. That's the type of thing that I'm getting really interested in discovering now. Is those small deals are big deals. Like
today's go-kart racing 8-year-old is tomorrow's Dale Earnhardt.
Right. Like, you don't have to be that guy who's putting his life in his hands, or putting his life in somebody else's hands, or an animal's hands. You don't have to be that guy pushing yourself to the limit. It could be a pursuit, but you don't have to be that guy. There's still plenty of people in between there that that can at some level push beyond their comfort zone and find a new place, a new I don't want to say plateau, but a new place in their life, a new place in their path to enjoy, appreciate, to get a learning experience from. And that's just cool, man.
Yeah,
that's so cool. The rodeo add that onto the list, Ben, of the stuff that we need to go check out. But there are circuses and carnivals and stuff like that. I've done that before, and those are not to put those people down, but the idea of something more in the lines of competition and even if it's simulated competition, like with us at the independent wrestling and everything, it's the performance aspect of it on top of that as well. But
well, circuses are about spectacle.
Yeah,
it's all about spectacle.
Yeah,
something like a rodeo is a spectacle wrapped in a competition.
Yeah, it's pushing something a little further than.
And they do other things other than just the rodeo. I mean, like with the clowns and fucking there's other activities like you're saying about the kids that ride the sheep. They entertain people for hours at the rodeo. The rodeo is part of the competition part is part of that. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna have to add that on the list of stuff that we need to research in the local area because it's Tennessee, man. Come on.
Oh yeah.
There's got to be a bunch.
Chris
of
Shivers is well, he did live here for a while. I guess he's from Louisiana, but there's been BJ Cramps, who is a world champion bull rider, is a realtor here locally. He is a retired, he was from British Columbia, Canada, and he was a champion bull rider up there, and then he was a world champion PRCA bull rider down here, and then he was, I don't know if he was ever world champion, but I know he's way up high in the PBR for a long time, professional bull riders. And then when he retired from bull riding, he moved out here to East Tennessee, and he's a realtor out here. You see his sign, you see his little what do you call it? Your mugshot, when you go to be an actor.
Oh, like I know what you're talking the portraits or
the
whatever.
Portrait, yeah, he got his portrait on the side of his car. It's like, that's the same one from when he was riding bulls, man.
Nice, nice. Not to, I certainly apologize for derailing you, but on top of getting involved in the rodeo, that also got you involved. So that was your in and getting involved with horses and stuff.
Yeah.
And then you, beyond the rodeo, probably after or during, like you started to get into the farrier aspect of it.
Before. Well, so I started rodeo when I was nearly 17 years old. That's when I started riding bulls in the rodeo, and that was the local county fair stuff. And then when I was 19 years old, I went to farrier school and began shoeing horses. Most of the reason that I began shoeing horses was because in the early years of riding bulls in the rodeo, I was not very good and not winning enough to support myself without a job.
Sure.
So I'd have all these jobs, but in northern Michigan, like all the jobs are tourist centric, and entertainment centric.
Mhm.
So they all want you on the weekends.
Mm.
And I'm like, I have got to figure out a job where I can make up my own hours, or at the very least refuse weekend hours. And it was about the time that I was presenting myself with this challenge that a farrier school opened up 30 miles away from where I lived. And I was just like, ding, 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 right there. Do I know about horses that much? No. But I know that if I am doing that job, that I can book any days and times that I want to book. And also,
It's rodeo centric. It's
I
connected.
can work while I'm at the shows. If I
Adjacent.
need a little bit of extra money, I can shoe a couple horses at the rodeo and keep plugging away.
That's cool. So you went to farrier school,
Mm-hmm.
and
How long is farrier school?
It was 3 months for me.
Oh, okay.
It was 3 months long, and that's every day, all day. So it's very much like earning a degree,
Mm-hmm.
in so much as how much time you're spending in the class, right? It's 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday for 3 months.
Mm-hmm. That's a lot of instruction.
It's a lot of education that you can get.
hands on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, every morning you'd get up and you stay on campus in a bunkhouse, right? And you get up every morning and just walk into this big building that had a dozen coal forges all lined up against the wall with chimneys that went outside the wall, right? And you'd light your forge first thing in the morning. And the instructor would come in, and you would have a forging exercise, and you would spend most of the morning doing forging exercises where you're building shoes or building tools or doing whatever in the forge. All right. And then after lunch, you'd have 2 hours of classroom work where we had a book called The Principles of Horseshoeing. And it was this big textbook. I still have it with me today. And we would do lessons out of that book and take tests out of that book. And all of our academic study came out of that book. And then we would do field work for the last part of the day, where we would either bring horses into the shop where all the forges were at and shoe them, or we would go afield and go to people's farms as a group and shoe horses out there.
Nice.
So that was what your day was every single day. And it was in northern Michigan starting in January and ending in March. So not
Cool.
very forgiving.
Yeah,
weather.
I was gonna
Cold.
say you're certainly taking on a lot there, is the climate and everything. So you did that for 3 months,
Yeah.
and then you said with the blacksmithing as well. Was that something you were pursuing at that time?
No.
Also.
No, it took it. I shoed horses for 15 years after that, before I got the idea that I wanted to turn this forging skill that I had into an enterprise, right? And I was just like, maybe it's not the worst idea that I make some things that I can always have with me and sell them right out of my hand, And that was so successful. Like, I almost doubled my income making these little novelties that I could sell for $20 a lick,
Mm-hmm.
That was so successful that I got it in my head, like, maybe I should do a little bit of ornamental forge work and take orders, and sell this stuff. So what do I need in order to do that? Well, I'm going to have to get a welder. I've never welded anything in my life, and that's a big part of metalworking. So the goal became sell enough little novelties to buy a nice welder. Mission accomplished. Once I got the welder, now I can make bigger, better stuff. Start making bigger, better stuff. People start asking for bigger, better stuff. Can you do railing? Can you do furniture? Can you do this? Can you do that? Well, it's just me. I'm solo. So if I'm going to make stuff like that, I need bigger tools.
Mm-hmm.
I need power hammer. I need hydraulic press.
So whereas someone as a farrier, you could do that you did that while you were on the road.
Yeah.
While you were traveling.
Yeah.
You did that solo. So we're talking like when you're talking about blacksmithing, that was more of a stage where you decided to settle down. And,
Yes. Now at this point, you're not going to have much of a shop unless you have a stable place to
Right.
house a shop. So by this point in my life, and not necessarily in the beginning, when I first started making those novelties and stuff, I was still out in the wind a little bit. But
because to a certain degree, you could do that.
Yes.
Your resources, you don't need a lot. Your tools and stuff like that. You can be mobile.
Yep. But once I had a welder and a power hammer, it's time to like these are
have
big
a shop.
these
Yeah.
are big
Yeah.
tools,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't move easy.
Time to find a place to settle.
And
Yeah.
so now I've got a place. I've got in this period of time I've met my wife Michelle, 35, 36 years old, and we buy a place together, and now I'm outfitting my home shop with all the toys, but every step of the way in developing a blacksmith shop, I always built every major purchase was built on what I could sell.
Yep.
So when it was just the novelties, I needed to sell $3,000, $4,000 worth of novelties so I could get a welder. Once it was the welder, I need to sell $10,000 worth of ornamentation to get the power hammer. Once it was the power hammer, I need $7,000 to buy a press. And I would just always recycle whatever money I was making back into building a shop. Well, now my shop is completely outfitted and all paid for.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So now whenever I make something, it's just like, whoop.
and hopefully at some point we could do a tour of your shop.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, we'll
And
go
which,
there and
by
make
the way,
something one day.
You have an amazing property.
Thank you.
That Ben and I have talked about before, and that we visited before and shot a couple guns at, which was kind of cool as well. But so you have these resources that you can do a lot of stuff. So you mentioned like rails and stuff like that. What
Mhm.
kind of stuff do you do? What level do you do blacksmithing now?
I actually peaked, plateaued, and came off a little bit, because what I learned as I got into bigger architectural projects like indoor railing, which is the cheese, it's when you do those types of projects in expensive homes, they become the centerpiece of that home oftentimes, and people are just so excited and ecstatic to have a piece of heavy tactile art, handcrafted art mounted in their house.
Yeah.
And it's exciting to do those jobs, but man, every time I've done one of those jobs, I've been in over my head. Every single time I've been in, and I had to fake it, and I had to worry, and I had to learn as I went, which it's exciting, but it's very emotionally taxing when you think you're going to let somebody down.
Very draining. I've helped Tuck on one of those jobs, and it's you got a lot of positive energy that just gets sucked right out of you.
Yeah.
The minute something goes wrong.
Yeah, it's somebody's home and you're fucking it up, or you think you are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not fun, and
because you're an artist and you wouldn't do that if you didn't have the passion for it.
Exactly.
So if it was not important to you, you wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
And at that level, it can get exhausting. Sure.
So I prefer, after doing a few of those jobs like that, Ben was with me on probably the apex of what I've done for architectural work. He saw that, so he knows what that looked like.
It was really fancy. Yeah.
Yeah, it was nice.
Cool.
But from there, I fell back down. I crossed my comfort zone to learn something, and then fell back down, and I kind of live in a more comfortable area where I can make things that I like, and then other people can look at them and decide if they want to buy them or not. And there's much less pressure.
less on the line.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a comfort zone for a reason.
Yeah.
It's perfectly fine to live on that level.
Yeah.
Once you've tested yourself, once you've accepted those challenges,
I broke through the barrier, but I didn't like how it felt on the other side, so I came back.
Yeah, you got your experience, you put your time in. Now it's okay to pull it back a little bit. Sure. Where do you see yourself? Like, what's your next pursuit? What's the next thing you're looking at?
As far as
could be blacksmithing, or it could be any other pursuit.
Right. Okay. So right now,
because I know it's both. It's like what you're doing now to try and find different ways. I know you well enough to know that it's what do I have right now that I could do in different ways, and then what's the one thing that is totally totally unfamiliar to me that I can pursue as well. Like, I know there's probably two different things for you.
Well, the big one for me right now is this this ancient mysteries vein that I'm in. This is very important to me, and I also recognize it as being a lifelong pursuit. And I also recognize it as an opportunity to dump every skill that I have and feed all these experiences, this body of experience that represents my life, feed that into these lessons, these esoteric lessons and principles that I'm being exposed to. I'm not sure what the future holds as far as new adventures. Traveling is always something that's interesting, and it's usually new. And sometimes you get exposed to things that pique your interest as being like, oh, I will try that.
And probably having had experiences where you change your perception, where you change your scenery.
Yeah.
Once you do that, I know that myself, and very limited. Like, I've never been to certain places, and now that I've been to certain places, I want to go to more places. Like that's never not attractive.
I'm interested in big game hunting.
Okay.
So, as you know, I shoot.
Mhm.
I shoot at my place. I shoot long range rifles. I shoot carbines, and I shoot pistols, and I shoot shotguns. I shoot whatever I want out there, and I train with everything. But part of that long range rifle conversation is I'm interested in a big game hunt in a far away place with exotic animals. I'd like to go to Alaska or somewhere in the Yukon, and do these things. And that's an adventure that I look forward to, but it's also an adventure that to do it in an impromptu fashion is folly.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good way to waste a lot of money
Mhm.
and take unnecessary risks.
Sure.
So I intend to prepare myself over the following 5 years for an adventure like that. Not only physically, but in the skill sets that are required to do something like that, and also to put together the kind of money that it takes to undertake something like that, to fly yourself and your equipment
Mm-hmm.
to Fairbanks, Alaska, and then to get a bush pilot to take you from there into the woods where you meet a guide.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
all that stuff, that it takes a lot of logistics to put something like that together.
Because you care, you want to do it right, and
Yeah.
to do it right takes a lot of resources
Yeah.
in order to get that. Yeah, sure. And that's the reason that turning back to the whole modern Renaissance man thing.
Mhm.
That's the reason why you didn't agree to that term, because you have so much respect for it that you don't you don't want to be called the Renaissance man, because there's that level that you're like, no, it's a goal.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. Where the big game hunting and stuff is something that you end up wanting to pursue. So
Yeah.
that's
Well, I
important.
really want to. It's not just an adventure, going to a foreign place and interacting with exotic wildlife, but also I feel like it's important. A secondary lesson. I feel like it's important to have a relationship with your food,
Sure.
and I say that I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
Mm-hmm.
But I recognize it as something that is missing from me as a person.
Yep.
To have a relationship with my food. So there's the adventure of a big game hunt, and then there's the spiritual lesson of,
Sure.
of connecting with your food.
Absolutely. So I'm sure I don't know if we've ever discussed it directly, but I've always had a fascination with samurai, with Bushido, with the
Mhm.
discipline, with
Mhm.
the virtues of being a warrior, and that whole vibe of to have certain, like, the certain pillars, the certain virtues that I rattle off, like positivity and honesty, truth, creativity, community, that words like honor and stuff like that mean a lot more to us than they do to the people. Could use those words all the time and not really even, like, I myself in the past have heard the word honor but never really understood what it meant until later on in my life.
In military, which when you talk about samurai, that's what you're talking about in its origin. And in any military lifestyle, the rest of us who are not a part of that can say, we honor the dead.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a novelty. When you kill somebody and then you say, I honor the dead, it is very much a
deeper
different thing.
connection. Yeah, yeah.
Very much a different thing.
Right. Because the idea of, like I said, because we care, because we put so much care and so much value in certain words and in certain ideals, that makes every experience in our life mean a lot more.
Mhm.
Like the fact of the consideration that you put into, I need to respect the animals that that you use, that you harvest, that you like honor, meaning to represent your God or to represent your family, your community, to
Well, to show reverence for life.
yeah, right. And the idea of
Just because I kill something and eat it doesn't mean I don't have reverence for it.
yeah, respect and that sort of thing. Yeah, exactly. I dig that. That's pretty cool. And so that's where you and I have that connection for sure, because we're both of the same way. That to whatever I do, it has to mean something, and that's for the rest of your life. What you pursue is not only am I doing something, but I want to understand it, and I want to understand everything about it. And that's where, like, I never don't want you to be a part of this community. I never don't want you to be a part of this show and what we're doing here, because that's super important.
A special guest that wants to come on and say hello.
Do we? Hello. Go sit at your dad's seat.
Go sit in my seat.
Yep, you went the wrong
Go
way.
the other way.
Go that way. Go that way.
We have a special guest joining us in our studio at this time. Future co-host.
Is this
Who is it? It's Izzy.
Oh, you don't need headphones on, honey. You're good. You're good. Here, have a seat. Have a seat.
Hello.
Hi there. So we're talking to our special guest Tuck right here. Is there a particular question that you would like to ask Tuck?
I just want to see him. Yeah.
High five.
Like, you want to ask him how he's doing? Go ask him. Go ahead. Be an interviewer. Ask him.
Is it good? Are you good
I'm
today?
better now that you're here.
Okay.
Very cool.
Okay.
You see yourself on screen?
Yeah.
Thank you, Izzy. All right. Probably. We can't top that? I'm afraid that's probably the end of it right there. But so, like I said, don't ever want you to not be a part of this. We definitely want you to come back and join us on another show. And yeah, let's do a tour of your shop and stuff like that, because there's a ton of interesting stuff that you have.
Yeah.
That we'd love to take a look at as well. And any, if next time, now that we're mindful of it, to be more prepared, if you have any photos that you want to do, that you want to give us as well, so we can show some of the stuff that you've worked on as well. We'd love to do that. I know that you don't do social media, that you're not a social media.
But you do have a website, though.
I do have a website.
Okay.
Yeah, so you could at least plug the website.
That's RyanTuckBlacksmith.com. You can go on there and look at a few pictures of a few of the things that I've done. I don't sell very hard, mostly because I'm spread pretty thin. I got a lot of irons and a lot of fires, and all of those fires are productive for me. So it's never been important to me that I'm just slaying it on selling hand forged goods, or that I'm just slaying it on shoeing all the horses.
Yeah.
I shoe a few horses here, a few horses there. I make a few things here and sell them here and there. I go down to the school, and I try to help out at the school where I can, because that's a lot of fun for me, and I enjoy it, and I feel like it's valuable and important. I spend a lot of time with my wife and kids at home. I've got my 10 acres that I have to spend a lot of time caring for and managing and taking care of. And I find time to go around and do stuff with my friends. I travel a lot. So, yeah, whereas a very familiar path is, well, you've got this shop and you're making these things and selling them. That must be what you do.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's just a thing I do.
Sure.
It's just a thing I do.
Yeah, part of Tuck.
Yeah, if there's one takeaway that I'm sure our viewer could get from this, is that you're certainly about quality, not quantity. But that's not to say that you don't have your fair share of quantity as well,
Yeah.
the stuff that you've done. And we will definitely cover that next time that we have you on. We want to thank you again. Thank you, Tuck, for joining us on this show.
Thank you so much. It's fun.
And we want to thank everybody else for watching and viewing this. Of course, as always, we want to remind everybody that if you first of all, like I always say, follow us if you haven't followed us yet. Please share the broadcast with your friends. You can like, you can subscribe, you can get notified when we go on YouTube. It's normally every Wednesday at 7 p.m., every Saturday at 7 p.m. on Facebook. Again, you're more than welcome to join us in our conversation. Anything to add, Ben? Are we good to go?
We're good.
To wrap
I
this
really
up?
enjoyed the show. Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. But yeah, thank you guys for watching us. And as always, we are at 3231. It's 3TWO3ONE on all of our socials, like you see below. You can also go to 323.1. That'll take you to our social page where you can connect with us all over the internet. You can leave a tip in the tip jar. You can go to shop.323.1 in order to get some of our fabulous merchandise, like the Nomad Radio t-shirt that you see right here. We have merchandise available, shirts, and a whole bunch of other cool stuff. At least check it out. And see what you
Stickers
think.
too, right? We got stickers.
Yes, we do. We have stickers as well that you can always contact us. I don't think these are available through the shop yet, but we'll get them up there at some point as well.
We'll mail them out.
But you can always contact us through social media, and we can get a few out to you as well. Not just one. We'll probably get you a handful. That way you can spread them around to the people in your area.
They can take pictures of themselves with the stickers.
Oh, yeah, that's
You know,
fantastic.
that's a good campaign there.
Absolutely. But we want to
Make it
thank
happen, Jamie.
we want to thank you guys very much for joining us, and we hope to see you tomorrow. We will do our show, just me solo, but you can follow us and be notified when we go live. But that's about it for us. Thank you guys very much for watching. You guys have a great night. Love you. Bye.
Right on.